QuitSmokingWeed.com, the podcast on Spotify.
Everyone tells you it gets better when you quit, but nobody tells you it gets worse first. Week 1, your sleep just falls apart. Your mood is completely unpredictable, and you are probably wondering why this so-called upgrade feels terrible.
Yeah, that is the reality of it. You expect this immediate relief, and instead you feel worse. But the honest truth is that the benefits are very real. They arrive in a specific, predictable order, just, not on day 1.
Right. And we really need to talk about that today. That early dip is not a sign of failure. It is not permanent damage. It is the literal start of the repair process.
Exactly. And the roadmap for this recovery is clear. Sleep improves first, then your mood, and finally, your clarity.
So let us look at the first few days, which we call a release phase. This is roughly day 1 to 5. People in this phase deal with severe cravings, restlessness, and just feeling physically broken.
Well, to understand why it feels so bad, we have to look under the hood. We need to see what regular THC input actually did to the brain over all those years.
Okay, so what is happening biologically there?
It involves your endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. This is basically the master system in your body. It relies on CB1 receptors to run your mood, your sleep, appetite, pain, and stress.
So it is controlling all the major daily functions.
Yeah, pretty much. And years of daily THC dial down those receptors. The brain does this to compensate for the constant external stimulation.
Because there is just too much of the chemical coming in from the outside.
Right, but the moment you stop, those CB1 receptors start coming back online. You do not feel it yet because it is just the first few days, but that reboot is already underway.
I always think of it like a phone battery that was constantly plugged into the wall for years. It basically forgot how to hold its own charge.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it.
The initial panic of unplugging is just the system relearning how to power itself. It feels broken, but it is just adjusting.
And because the ECS heavily regulates rest, the very first thing to physically break down and rebuild is sleep. That brings us right into weeks 2 and 3.
Sleep definitely falls apart before it gets better. Why is that initial sleep so chaotic?
For years, THC basically did the job of putting you to sleep. It knocked you out, but it also suppressed deep rest. So with the THC gone, your brain goes into REM rebound.
REM rebound, okay. So it is trying to catch up on what it missed.
Yes, it aggressively catches up on missed deep sleep. This is why you get vivid dreams, early waking, and totally fragmented nights.
I actually remember that vivid dream phase being uniquely exhausting when I quit. You wake up feeling like you ran a marathon. Is this chaotic sleep a sign of an overactive brain?
No, not at all. It is literally just a mechanical backlog being cleared out. It is not a step backwards. It is your brain relearning to sleep on its own.
So the chaos is actually a good sign.
It is. And quality typically starts improving from around weeks 2 to 3.
Okay, so once the sheer physical exhaustion of that first week starts to shift, the emotional reality sets in. This is the resilience phase, running from about day 5 across roughly 3 weeks.
Yes, the physical stuff eases, but this is where the mood goes completely flat.
I actually openly disagree with the cultural narrative here. Everyone thinks the first few days of quitting are the absolute hardest part.
A lot of people definitely believe that.
Right, they brace for that first weekend. But I think this middle stretch of emotional hollowness requires far more endurance. The physical withdrawal is hard, but you can fight it. This flat mood is just draining.
You are right to call that out. The mood middle is the true test of resilience. Weeks 2 to 4 are essentially an emotional trough. You get irritability, low mood, and this profound hollow feeling.
Where does that hollowness actually come from?
It is about dopamine. Daily use blunted your natural dopamine response. Without the external input from the drug, the reward system takes weeks to find ordinary pleasure again.
So ordinary things just do not feel good because the dopamine receptors are dialed down.
Exactly. The emptiness you feel is just a transition state. It is not your real baseline, even though your brain tries to tell you it is permanent.
That is such a crucial point. It feels permanent, but it is just a gap.
Right. And by the end of week 3, most people get their first clear day. That is when the heavy weight finally lifts a bit.
Which brings us to the clarity phase. This is roughly week 3 to week 7. As the emotional baseline slowly stabilizes, your higher-level cognitive functions finally have the foundation to reboot.
And this clarity comes last, but it is a measurable physical change. It is not just in your head.
What do you mean by measurable?
Around day 28, PDT imaging scans show that CB1 receptor density actually returns toward normal levels in the brain.
Oh, wow. So it takes about 4 weeks for the hardware to physically repair itself.
Yes, and this is exactly when the brain fog lifts. A sentence sticks on the first read, a thought finishes itself, and your memory really sharpens.
It is like an old camera lens that was blurring the edges for weeks. Then finally, it just snaps into crisp focus. It is really fascinating that this clarity aligns precisely with that 28-day receptor density normalization.
It really is. And with active support, most people feel genuinely stabilized around the 7-week mark. That brings their energy back with it.
We do need to note that this timeline varies, right?
Yes, definitely. Without active support or for heavy long-term users, this stabilization phase can take up to 3 months. It is not a fixed clock for everyone.
Okay, so let us talk about month 3 and beyond. Because once clarity returns and the system stabilizes, the waiting period concludes.
Right. The reality of the new baseline begins. By around month 3, the physical recovery is essentially done. The THC is physically gone, and the ECS has entirely recalibrated.
The physical hard part is over. So what is left?
What is left is not more waiting for magical improvements. What remains is purely psychological reorientation.
Meaning you actually have to build a life now.
Yes, rebuilding a life and creating new routines with a clear head. The substance is gone, but you have to actively manage your time and your habits.
So let us summarize the honest order here so everyone has the roadmap. But the ECS needs time to repair. Sleep improves first, then the mood stabilizes, and finally clarity arrives.
That is the sequence. It takes time, but it follows that reliable path.
If the physical and emotional pain of the first few weeks is actually the literal sensation of the brain healing itself, it completely changes our relationship with suffering. Discomfort is no longer a signal to escape, but proof of progress. The Release, Resilience, and Clarity program gives you the structure for exactly this. $20 a month at quit-smoking-weed.com.